Wende Parsley here with Jeremiah School. You can find us at jeremiahschool.org or Jeremiah School on Facebook. We're doing some videos today in response to being asked by people that are members to do some videos on helping kids that are either beginning readers, struggling readers, maybe you suspect they have dyslexia, but how do I teach my kid to start to read or to read better, especially if you're homeschooling. So we're going to do some of that today. It's going to take several videos, so sign up, subscribe, join, all of that so that you can get the rest of them. I cannot possibly fit it all on one video. It would be daunting. This is Christopher. He's going to help us. The first thing that you need to know is that kids that struggle in reading hate reading. Why? Because they're frustrated. No one wants to do things that frustrate them, so they don't want to do it. So instead of taking books that are on the level where you think they should be, look for books that are lower than, so that we can build some confidence, we can work on some fluency, and then kind of start from there. How do you find those books, you ask? Some of that's a little tricky if you're not trained as a reading specialist, but on some books, on the backs, you probably won't be able to see this, but they'll say age, kind of right at the bottom. It'll say like ages 6 to 9. Does that mean that a 6-year-old should be able to read this? Not necessarily. Does it mean that a 9-year-old should be able to read this? Not necessarily. But it does give you some guideline that it's not probably a book you want to start with. There's too many words on the page. There's also some books that say RL3, and that would be a reading level 3rd grade. So considering that this would be the norm for 3rd grade, but it doesn't mean necessarily that that's exactly where you start. So if your kid's a struggling reader, you want to back up. All right, Christopher, we're going to start with, if we backed up a bit, we're going to start with the cake that Mac ate. Another thing that people notice when their kids are struggling readers is that they kind of read like this, and then sometimes go to thinking they need to sound out every word, even the words they know. And so there's no fluency to the reading. And they struggle and they don't remember what they've read, and it's just a mess. It's very frustrating. So books like this one, The Cake That Mac Ate, or anything by Eric Carle that have repetitive text, so it's predictable. They know what's coming. They may not even actually be reading every single word, but they remember what it says. So we're going to start with that so you can see what that looks like. Another technique I'm going to use is I'm going to shadow him. So I'm going to read with him. I'm going to let him lead, but I'm going to read a little bit with him so he gets the pace of reading. Okay, ready, go.
This is the egg that went into the cake that Mac ate.
This is the hen that laid the egg that went into the cake that Mac ate. This is the corn that fed the hen that laid the egg that went into the cake that Mac ate. This is the seed that grew into corn that fed the hen that laid the egg that went into the cake that Mac ate. So you can probably hear how, as he knew that it was going to be some of the same text on each page, it got a little faster, and I was able to push him more with his fluency. So that's one technique that works really well. Also, another thing you can try is, let's say we have a book like this. This is called Ask Mr. Bear. It's probably, could be 1st grade, 2nd grade level. Okay. Start. Something else is that it's important to understand that there's 2 sides of the brain involved in reading. So you have one side that understands the meaning and the other side that's decoding a complicated written text. It's like a code. So those 2 sides have to work together to be able to read well or read at all. And sometimes we want them sound it out, sound it out. Well, one side is the sounding out and one side is the remembering. And once you leave that meaning of what you're reading to go to the sounding out side, you forget what you've read before. And your goal is for your reading to be driven by, wow, I can predict some of what's coming next. I understand what the story's about because I remember what I've read. So we're not going to do a lot of stopping and sounding out words. I know we've been taught that that's what we do. Stop doing it. Okay, ready, go. Ask Mr. Bear.
Ask Mr. Bear. Once there was a boy named Danny. One day Danny's mother had a birthday. Danny said to himself, "What shall I get for my mother for her birthday?" So Danny started out to see what he could find. He walked along and he met a hen. "Good morning, Mr. Hen," said Danny. "You can give me something for my mother's birthday."
"Cluck, cluck," said the hen. "I can give you a nice fresh egg for your mother's birthday." "Thank you," said Danny. "But she has an egg." "Let's see what we can find then," said the hen. So we can take turns page to page so that he can hear the expression and the fluency that I use in my reading, and I'm modeling for him. And it also gives him a break, so he's not reading the whole entire book. He's getting a break page per page. Another thing, when you're reading with them and you say, well, this is the book that the school sent home, or this is the book that came with the curriculum that I have, but they're struggling with it, back up a level or two, maybe a whole grade level or two, and start with something very, very simple so that they can feel successful. So let's try Nate the Great. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Nate the Great and the Stolen Base. Now these are cold reads because these are books that he has not read before. I'm not giving him any information on it. He's just doing a cold read.
"I, Nate the Great, am a detective.
Sometimes
I'm a baseball player. This morning I was a detective and a baseball player. My dog's
Sludge.
And I went to the field. I had to practice batting and running and fielding. I belong to the A team."
So you'll notice there were a couple words that he was going to hesitate on. I just gave him those words. I want him to get the meaning of the reading and feel successful and not be bogged down in the sounding out. So on this next page, I want you to actually read this page. As he's reading, when he comes to those words that I give to him, I'm going to jot those words down, and I'll show you what we do with that in a minute. Go ahead.
This page?
No, right here.
Annie's dog thing was there.
So Christopher didn't struggle a lot with many words. My bad. I really thought he would. So we're going to pretend like he struggled with R-controlled vowels. So that's like the R, or, that's at the beginning, middle, or end of a word. But we're going to say he struggled with them in the middle. And then I noticed a pattern of that because I'm writing down the words he missed when he's reading. So then the next thing I need to do is give him some word work, some practice with those things. So we're going to start from something he knows. So you know a word, it. Write a word, it. Write it. Now every time I have him change it, I'm only going to change one sound. Change it to hit. Hit. Read it.
Hit.
Change hit to hut. Hut. Read it.
Hut.
Change hut to hurt. Read it.
Hurt.
Change hurt to curt. Okay, if you put a K, it's going to be like someone's name, but you could put a C, and that's a different word. Curt. So change curt to curd, like eating her curds and whey. Curd. Read it.
Curd.
Change curd to card. Card. Read it.
Card.
Change card to hard. Read it. Change hard to shard. Read it. Okay, now change it again back to hard. You're going to write the whole thing. Hard. Read it.
Hard.
Change hard to hand.
Hand.
Okay, change back to hard. No, hand. Hand. No, change hand to hard. You can write it underneath if you want. Okay, read it.
Hard.
Change hard to harm. Read it.
Harm.
Now change harm to arm. Read it.
Arm.
Okay. So in that way, you take the things that they already know and you build on it, but only changing one thing at a time so it's part they can see. And in that way, they start to go, oh, okay, from the things I already know, I can connect and change it a little bit to know different words. And you do a lot of practice on that. On your part, I have written down the whole list of, okay, I know he knows the word it. How can I change that and get him to where he's working with the R-controlled vowels in the middle of words? So that takes a little practice and planning on your part, but it starts with just writing down words that they're missing when they're reading and then saying, okay, what's similar about these words? Or what do they have in common? Or is it all one word? What can I do to work on that word? This is really just a quick start. And I hope it helps. I'm going to try to do more videos like this and give you little mini lessons that you can do when you're working at home. I would say working on the word work and reading a little book, shadowing, working on the fluency, you probably want to do 30-40 minutes a day, not more than that, because you don't want them to get really bogged down. But if you're really working for that whole 30 minutes, it's a lot of instruction. It'll work, and you'll see differences quickly. So keep watching for more videos at jeremiahschool.org, and this is Wende Parsley. Thank you.